Sophie. Thank you. Great to be here. When I first got approached to speak at this event, I, apart from absolutely shitting myself at the thought of having to talk for 7 minutes in front of so many people, I actually did think about my topic for quite a long time. And while I'm thinking about my topic, I realized what a huge deal this is. If you would have asked me or any of my longtime friends a couple of years ago if I was gonna hold a speech online, we would have been like, no, not Mattia, definitely not. But the last 2 years in sales have definitely changed me and have let me become to learn the uncomfortable, as I'm feeling very uncomfortable at the moment, but we're loving it. And it has taught me that I need to be myself and love to be myself in order to be successful in anything that I do. So that's the story that I'm going to tell you about today. I come from a place where I felt uncomfortable all the time. I used to be so worried about what other people thought about me, about what I said and what I looked like and what I did, really. So much so that if I was in a room full of people and someone else on the other side of the room would laugh, I would immediately think that they're laughing about me because of what I was wearing or what I was saying. This is how uncomfortable and self-conscious I was, really. And it held me back from a lot of things that I wanted to do and that I wanted to say, really, because what other people thought about me limited me so much. But that changed when I got into sales. And I have to say, when I never really thought about going into sales, right? Like, I studied international business, like Sophie said, in the UK. I'm German, if you haven't caught on to my accent yet. And university didn't really teach me about sales. Even though it was an international business degree, I haven't had a single sales class. So I had no idea what sales was. And still, sales has quite a bad reputation, which we're obviously trying to change here. But when I got first into a couple of my interviews, I absolutely failed them, like the first 10 or 20 ones, because again, I wasn't being myself. I was looking up, like, what should I say? What should I wear? How should I sell myself? You know, I would look up, okay, what should I say when people ask me what my biggest weakness is. And Google told me I should say my biggest weakness is being a perfectionist, and that comes into my way sometimes, which is, I think, a classic one. But I did get a job as an SDR, and the first couple of months were tough. I was comparing myself a lot to other people that were posting their opening and reply rates on LinkedIn, and it impacted my mental health because my reply rates and my opening rates were nowhere near there. So I started copying other people. I used their messaging and I used their emails and what they said and their style all the time. I almost felt like I was wearing a mask coming to work. Like, if you would compare my WhatsApp messages, my personal messages, my personal way of communicating and compare it to my professional emails that I'm sending out, you wouldn't have a clue that that's the same person, right? And that was difficult. And while I'm looking at all of these emails that I'm copying and the messaging that I'm copying, I realized that most of them really sound the same. Like, a lot of the times you can't even tell if a robot said this, if this was an automated message, or if an actual human was behind that email. And at the same time, I'm reading a study and it says C-level executives, the people that I'm speaking to, that I'm intimidated by, because at the time I still think, oh, I'm just an SDR. What can I say to these people, right? Those people get 127 outreach attempts a day. 127. Now think about that number. That's 127 emails, cold calls, LinkedIn messages that almost look the same. A sea of 127 emails. And I realized that for the first time in my life, I shouldn't care about what other people do and what they say in their messages, and I shouldn't blend in. The only thing that's going to make me successful is to stand out if I'm different to anyone else out there. And then the next question to that is obviously, how can I stand out? Like, how can anyone stand out? And I asked myself this question for such a long time, because I thought it was a difficult question. But really, at some point, I realized that it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to stand out, because in the end, we are all hyper-personalized. We are all hyper-different to one another. Being yourself and embracing that will make you stand out. So I was like, okay, now I know that I'm different to anyone else, but how do I bring this out, right? So I talked to my friends a lot, and I asked them, and my family, and I asked them, what do you like about me? Why are you friends with me? Because my friends, obviously, you know, they have a reason to be friends with me. My family, not so much. They really have no choice, but my friends do. And I gather all this insight about why they think being friends with me is worth it. And I also go on a journey on myself to see, okay, what am I like? Who am I like? What am I funny? Do I like cracking jokes? Do I like using memes and GIFs in my emails? Hell yes, I do. Like, why do I not do that at work as well? Why do I, you know, put on that mask when I go to work and am not being myself? Oops, my computer just fine. Yeah, and when I started doing that, when I put a little bit of me in everything that I did during my outreach, my reply rates skyrocketed, and I booked in so many more opportunities than before. And that was really the point where I was like, oh damn, this is working. I can be myself. And that was obviously really, really good for my career. But I think the overall message was much deeper and didn't just apply to sales, but also to my personal life, to everything in my life, that in the end, people appreciate me as me. And people like me being me, right? So I used that, and I used my individualism and my personality to my advantage. So the next time you write an email and you reread that email and you think about that sea of 127 emails that all look similar, and you read that email and you can pinpoint that this email is for you, or that email was written by you, then you can send it. And if not, then don't send it. If that email could have been written by 1,000 other people, don't send it, rewrite it. Because in the end, people want to speak to people, want to speak to individuals, and not to some AI robot or generated message. So if you want to be a little bit more yourself in your outreach, then I would say talk to your friends. Find out why they're friends with you, what they appreciate about you. Go on your own journey to see what makes you different as a person compared to everyone else. Compare your means of communication to your emails compared to your WhatsApp. And I'm not saying that you should write a CEO the same message that you write your best friend at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday night, right? But make sure that they're somehow aligned, that you can still say, this email was written by me. And just do it. I was so afraid all the time of just doing things. And as soon as I started just doing things, everything comes into place. Like, just do it. And lastly, I think it's really, really, really important, especially if you just start in the industry, work for a company that embraces who you are and that empowers you to be yourself and that doesn't put you in a box.